So folks, we're going to begin the festivities with some Hawaiian flavor. We're going to blow the conch shell. And in our islands, before any sacred event, the officiating priest sounds the shell to implore or to beseech the blessings and presence of God. We always blow it 3 times. Birth of a child, christening a ship, saying goodbye to a dearly departed, and 3 times at a wedding. But what's special at a wedding is the first 2 sounds are short and the third is long and sustained. Because in the Hawaiian culture, that long tone symbolizes long life and long relationships. You've all heard the word aloha?
Yeah.
Ha means the breath of life. So I'm going to give it all I've got on that 3rd one. And you'll judge for yourself if it's beyond human. But a couple things to bear in mind. Number 1, this is a pretty big shell, takes a lot of air to blow it. And I'm a kind of a skinny old guy. So everybody exhale on the 3rd one with me, and we'll see if we're connected to the Lord. All right?
Wow.
Impressed?
Wow, I'm impressed.
Well, you missed my introduction. I got to do it over again. You know, I think every enlightened culture, certainly in Christianity, teaches us that whenever we do something amazing, the last thing we want to do is take credit for it. Because there really isn't much we can take credit for. Everybody lift your hand. They put that hand down. Pretty easy. I was going into medicine, and I remember when we were studying neurology, our professors taught us that when the hand goes in the air, there are millions upon millions of mechanisms taking place, neurologically and anatomically, in the musculature system, etc. But they have no idea how the hand's going up. They don't have a clue. All we can really do is take credit for the desire, and the rest is up to God. So the more we accept that mood of dependence upon God, the more God will actually empower us. You know the story of David and Goliath? Goliath, this guy was a monster. I mean, he was about as demoniac of a foe as you could imagine. And he was big and powerful like a mountain, muscles like steel. And all the warriors knew of the futility of doing battle against him. David was a skinny little kid. He had absolutely no training in the military arts, but he had such faith in God. He said, "My dear Lord, if no one will go, send me, I will go." What was his weapon? Anybody know?
Sling.
David's weapon? Sling.
Slingshot.
Yeah, sling and a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pebble.
little pebble or stone. Can you imagine the state of disbelief the warriors were in when they saw this little kid defeat Goliath? David thought nothing of it because he knew God did everything. So quite frankly, that's really my meditation when I perform a wedding ceremony. I mean, it's a very sacred act to bring a couple together in holy matrimony. Folks, we want a holy person to perform that ceremony. And I hate to disappoint you. Too late to fire me. But if you could look at my heart, you'd say, wait a minute, this guy's no purer than we are, maybe even a lot less. And if you knew the wisdom that I brought with me today, that'd be disappointing. And furthermore, I don't even know these guys. I got their names written down on my hand so I don't screw it up. Just kidding. You're the ones who really have come with all the love and all the blessings. If I can be your instrument to all of you and the instrument of God, then the ceremony becomes very powerful. So folks, please don't think that you are just witnesses or spectators. You have actually come here to together perform this ceremony. So send those blessings this way, because this is when we really need it. So everyone, we are all assembled together this beautiful afternoon here in the Hawaiian Islands on the 29th day of April, the year 2016, a half a world away from Lubbock, Texas. That's got to be about 4,500 miles or something like that. Probably a couple thousand miles to the west coast, another 2,500 miles across the Pacific Ocean, which geographically has brought you to the most isolated place on Earth. And if you doubt that, look at a globe, or I don't know if they have globes anymore. Google Earth, point and click. You won't find any landmass more distant from a continent than the Hawaiian Islands. And I'm not even sure why I'm mentioning that, other than it affords certainly Jerry and Pressy the luxury to leave in a far-off place all the stress and politics of everyday life and even the world. Because if it wasn't for CNN and NBC and the rest of those guys, I don't think we know there's any trouble in the world. We don't have any crime.
We wouldn't care.
Yeah. Actually, we do care, but it doesn't affect our lives directly. I mean, look at our ocean. It's absolutely crystal clear, just the way God made it. Look at those colors. Turquoise, chartreuse, emerald green. Our drinking water, they don't put anything in it. Our temperatures, from the low of winter to the high of summer, varies 8 degrees. We don't have heat or air conditioning. And this is pretty much how it is all year. We're standing on sand that's just like golden sugar. The balmy breezes and the very angelic sound of the surf. By the way, isn't that better than Here Comes the Bride?
Much better.
Yeah.
This is God's music. And on this lovely tropical island, we're now going to perform a sacred ceremony of matrimony, wherein the hearts and souls of Jerry and Pressy will now intertwine as one by the divine link, or union of love and holy matrimony. There's something I got to get off my mind, because a very bizarre thought went through my thinking a few moments ago when I was first talking to Pressy and Jerry. I asked them how long they'd been together. They said 8 years. So I was trying to do the visual morphing. I morphed them down about 8 years, and I was picturing like little Jerry with his arms going through the bars of the crib, going into this, you know, cute little Filipino gal's crib and grabbing her rattle and hitting on her. I want to know where the supervision was. But anyway, if that's not spot on, I'll tell you what is. I want to know, where's all the wisdom about the young maiden who has to kiss all the frogs before she finds Prince Charming? And what about, you're from Texas, right? What about those southern songs about the achy, breaky hearts, right? That one has to experience before he finds true love? You're so fortunate. I mean, the older you get, you're going to look back and say you were children when you met, practically babies. And how blessed you are. You've been sharing now for 8 years the greatest gift that God has ever given to mankind, the gift of love. And face it, folks, we are all about love. Now, we may not remember, but when we first came in the world, the first thing we did was cry out for love. We had no idea who we were or what we were. We didn't know if we were man, woman, Filipino, American. We didn't know if we're big or small, boy, girl, human or animal, isn't it? We didn't even know we were anything. All we had was this intense desire for love. And if we were fortunate, Mommy was standing by. And one taste of Mommy's love just like, you know, knocks your socks off. It's like, whoa, good stuff. And then our life just becomes a journey to taste the infinite varieties of love. It comes in all flavors. Mommy, daddy, brothers, sisters, friends. Sometimes even furry creatures can become an undeniable partner in love. I would say a young child in a healthy family is completely satisfied, smothered in love. But I don't care how smothered we are, there's a certain point every one of us start to notice something's missing. And that's when, Jerry, you remember somewhere before we were even men, we were starting to wonder, you know, where's the love of my life to protect, provide for, and cherish? Just naturally awakened. And Cressy, I imagine, even before womanhood begins to enrich the life of a young maiden, she's already thinking, where the heck is Prince Charming? When's he going to be arriving to take me away on his white horse? And if we are fortunate enough, as Jerry and Cressy, to find that amorous love, especially so young in life, what more does this world have to offer? Let me make my point. We don't have lotteries in Hawaii, but we were reading about the lottery several months ago back on the mainland. Some Powerball thing or something. It was getting up to like $1 billion. How high did it get? Anybody know?
4 billion, somewhere around there.
2 billion.
What? 2 billion?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were watching on the news. People were just going crazy. I mean, the chances of winning were just about zero, between 0 and 0, but they were going crazy. Spend their hard-earned money to get them, just dream of getting that ticket. Well, we're going to ask a question to Jerry and Cressy. If somehow we could offer you that winning lottery ticket, could we get the two of you to separate and go your separate ways? Come on, $2 billion. That's $1 billion each. You know, if you're not very good at math.
You're going right back? Right back together?
Deal?
No deal.
All right, we got to up the ante. All right, we have 2 tickets, one for each of you.
Okay. All right.
Deal?
No.
What we want to talk about today, folks, is the reality of never losing what we've got. Because obviously, Jerry and Cressy have something more valuable than anything this world has. In fact, you know, if you want to know how wealthy someone is, really wealthy, you know how you find out? You don't look at their bank account. You look at what they have that money can't buy. That's wealth. These guys are billionaires, multi-billionaires, because they weren't going for the $2 billion. So we want to talk about the reality of always keeping it. Now, you guys have had a pretty sweet early on relationship. So I've got to say something that's probably never said at a wedding ordinarily, but I want to get your attention. Is that okay? I can speak from my heart? Inconvenient truth, folks. The vast majority of couples that have in their possession what Jerry and Cressy have, this nectar of love, the vast majority at some stage along the way, they drop it and they never recover it. Am I right? Is it different in Texas? Is that why they call it the Lone Star State? Anyway, the vast majority lose it. And we want to talk today about what goes wrong, because we want to make sure it never happens here. You know, I think the answer was spoken so far back in antiquity that we really can't trace out the genesis, but I think the answer was given. And that answer is actually echoed all throughout the world in practically every language at weddings. Tell me if these words sound familiar. Good times, bad times, sickness, health, for richer, for poor, for better, for worse, or some variation. You heard that? They say that in the Philippines? So we have an idea. It means it's not always going to be easy, right? Now, you've been together for 8 years. You're going to have a hard time convincing us there hasn't been some ups and downs in 8 years. Or, I don't know, has it been perfectly smooth sailing? Some ups and downs. Okay. Yeah. For sake of our discussion today, can we entertain the possibility or even the probability you've had some ups and downs, that you're probably going to have even some bigger ones on this long journey together? And I'm going to back up. Just a few moments ago, we asked you if there's anything you would take to separate. And I believe when you said nothing, I truly believe you. And I believe the reason we can't separate you is because of love. Love is just too sweet. Love makes you inseparable. And love has held you together. in those ups and downs, isn't it? It's too good you didn't let go, because love kept you together. If we accept there's going to be some bigger ups and downs, what will we depend on to hold you together in the long haul? The answer is love. Who likes that answer? Beautiful answer. But I'm here to tell you, I don't think that's the right answer. And the reason, I will predicate that on the following explanation. We can't separate you because of love, correct?
Right.
And I think if we ask any couple on the altar of marriage, what could we give to have you separate? They'll all say nothing. The answer is love. But yet we see the vast majority in the long haul separate. We've got to assume one thing. If I can't separate you because of love, if people walk away willingly, they must not be feeling love, or you couldn't separate them. In other words, it is my understanding that the ultimate test that every couple must face, perhaps in various shapes, forms, and times, the experience of not feeling love. It's God's ultimate test. By the way, it doesn't mean love is gone. We're just not feeling it. Like appetite. Don't we all love to eat? But have we all had times in our life where the last thing we want to do is eat? And that happens in loving relationships. But isn't it interesting that every enlightened culture in the world comes together at the time of marriage to make the most important commitment they will ever make? That's what you're here today to do. Make a commitment that's even beyond love. Will you stay together, love or no love? That's what this is all about. And if we have that firmly fixed in our hearts, that's what's going to keep you together. So these rings, which are beautiful, you look great wearing them, but they serve a much higher purpose, and that is to forever remind you of the promise you've made today. Jerry, how many times a day do you think you'll see these rings? All day long?
Yeah, all day long.
If every time you see them, they're reminding you, we will never ever separate. I made a sacred vow. You know, us old timers, we used to have a saying. I don't know if the youngins still know this, but we used to say, if you want to remember something, tie a string around your finger. Because now you just like put a reminder in your iPhone, right? It like beeps. There's like notes. You can dictate notes. But in the old days, you tie like if you're going to go shopping, and the missus told you to pick up a can of olives. That normally, you know, you're not going to forget the bread or the milk, but she said get a can of olives for the pizza she's making. So you might tie a string. Now, what are the last four letters of string? Anyone?
Ring.
Ring. Probably doesn't mean anything, but makes me sound smart. This is like the golden string to forever remind you of this promise. Now, if we think about what we just said, we're telling a couple they've been together since they were babies. 8 years they've been together. They've had nothing but a few little ups and downs. We're telling them they're going to go out in that ocean, and they may be so challenged that they don't feel love. Negative. But look, there's a beautiful positive silver lining that lies within. Folks, there's an old saying in the world of mariners. They've said it since the beginning of time. They still say it to this very day. Smooth seas do not make seasoned sailors. Fair weather lovers are a dime a dozen. Haven't we seen a lot of Mr. and Mrs. Perfects? They look like the perfect couple, right? So happy together. One storm and they come crashing down. Sometimes in nature we'll see trees, two trees, look identical, equally exposed to the elements. One day a storm comes through, one tree blows over, and one tree stands tall. What might the difference be? The root system. The more substantial the roots, the more that tree can grow. The more our commitment is rooted in our hearts, the more that love will grow. And love is the one thing in life that can get greater and greater and more delicious. And you can't say that about anything else but love. I'm going to share something with you because we've been together so long. Because you may reach this. Recently, we had the honor of renewing vows for a couple. This couple had been married for, ready for this one? 75 years. That was impressive. But there was something even more impressive, being in their association. They were so connected in love that every time they glanced at each other, you could just see their eyes were tearing. And they were always embracing. And you could see like little goosebumps running up and down their arms. And folks, I'll tell you something. I felt so unqualified to open my mouth in their presence and say something about love when this couple knew more about love than I would ever know. So I thought to myself, this is the golden opportunity. This couple's got the Holy Grail. I've been talking about storms like we're talking today. Here's a couple that knows how to navigate around storms unscathed, and I wanted in on it. So after the ceremony, I went up with all humility and I begged them to share with me their secret. And folks, you should have seen the smiles on their faces. They were so proud. Then you won't believe what happened next. They turned and looked at me and the smiles melted right off their faces. They became very grave and sober. And they said, Captain Howie, we're happy to share with you, but we're not going to mislead you. You're asking about storms. Storms, we pass through so many storms, you can't even count them all. They said some were violent, and others are so dark and uncertain we didn't know if we'd make it out together. But they said if there's one thing we can attribute to the success of our marriage, and that is we always took our vows very seriously to never ever separate. They said that's why we're standing here 75 years later in the presence of God, renewing our commitment. That's what a marriage is about. Taking this commitment deep, deep, deep into your hearts. I'd like to make a final point. One of the most profound instructions Lord Jesus gave us that we really hear echoed in all great traditions. That we have a tendency to not follow or not hear it. That's when Jesus said, don't look for your treasures in this world because you'll never find them. You know that. We just offered you everything in the world, right? You didn't take it. Real treasure, Jesus told us, is in the kingdom of God. That's in the heart. Do you know how sweet this love is you're sharing? Well, there's a whole reservoir of that love. It's like if we took a drop out of that ocean, that's the love you're sharing. You'd give up nothing for it. God is beckoning us to come inward to discover the source of that love, the fountainhead of love. That's God. With the rising and setting of every sun, don't be so concerned with what we've accomplished on this earth. The real question is, how much more have we gone deep into the heart? And if that's your purpose today, Jerry and Pressy, we can assure you both nothing will ever come between you. And you'll always remain happily married ever after. So now we would like you both to face each other and join hands. Jerry and Pressy, as you make your sacred vows to one another, we want you to open your hearts wide open and speak from your heart's innermost chambers as you repeat, beginning with Jerry. I, Jerry.
I, Jerry.
Take you, Pressy.
Take you, Pressy.
As my wedded wife.
As my wedded wife.
I promise to always love you.
I promise to always love you.
To remain faithful to you.
To remain faithful to you.
And I promise to embrace.
And I promise to embrace.
Every opportunity.
Every opportunity.
That life presents.
That life presents.
To strengthen.
To strengthen.
And expand.
And to expand.
My love.
My love.
As you put Pressy's ring upon her finger, Jerry, we'd like you to say this wedding ring.
This wedding ring.
Symbolizes. My unconditional commitment.
My unconditional commitment.
To you.
To you. There we go.
Again, joining hands. I, Pressy,
I, Pressy,
taking Jerry
taking Jerry
as my wedded husband,
as my wedded husband,
I promise to always love you,
I promise to always love you,
to remain faithful to you,
to remain faithful to you,
and I promise to embrace
and I promise to embrace
every opportunity
every opportunity
that life presents
that life presents
to strengthen,
to strengthen
expand
and expand
my love.
my love.
Nice. And honey, would you also say this wedding ring
This wedding ring symbolizes
my unconditional commitment
my unconditional commitment
to you.
to you.
So folks, at this time it is our great pleasure and honor and the blessings of all of the family and friends and well-wishers, those with us physically and those with us in spirit. Most importantly, our dear, most loving Lord, together. We're all in this together, folks. We now pronounce Jerry and Pressy as husband and wife. Jerry, make this your beautiful bride. Aloha.
Trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where